In this video, we are going to be looking at our brain, gut, and mental well-being connection through the digestive process and how the different stage in digestion reflect different emotional states that can impact our mental health. And I'm going to be walking you through that digestive process. So watch on to discover more about your emotional flow. Allow your heart to listen. Hi, I'm Nid. I'm a master teacher in energetics and in particular how that impacts our physical body experience and our emotional experience. And I do a lot of this through soul guidance, so how it is that our soul is trying to communicate through our body what is most aligned to us. But at a really simple level, let's just start with the physical body and the emotional process of eating food. And that's because the digestive process is a really wonderful energetic expression of our emotional process and also impacting our thoughts and the cycle of thoughts that we may go through. And where you might find that there's niggles in your digestive system often have a correlation and a relationship energetically with an emotional or mental state, if not both. And so just understanding this process can help you in finding out where it is that maybe you might need to explore a little bit more emotionally to move it on to the next stage in that process of your gut. So we're going to be using the approach of normal eating. So when we begin to eat or drink water, we take it in through the mouth. One of the first things that might happen before it gets to the mouth is our nose starts to smell the food. It's a yummy aroma, or not so sure, I don't like that thing. And so that actually triggers energy inside of the body to start to anticipate the reception of food. Now, this also goes with the energy of expecting something, which we often confuse with the end and letting go of things in life. So as something new comes in, often there is a releasing, right? A letting go of the old. And we have expectations based on the past normally that something is going to be enjoyable or not. Hence the smell of food may be yummy, it may be not so sure I want it, based on past experience. So we want to step into our smelling of the food, and that initiates taste buds, because without smell we do not taste. So initiating our openness to what food is going to taste like without the expectations of prior experience, to open ourselves up to it being a completely new opportunity, a completely new experience of what this thing may taste like. So this is our first step. Our smell affects the taste at which we initially respond to an experience. Can we step into it without those expectations of the past? As we start to eat and chew inside of the mouth, we release water. So we have this element of water, of flow. Saliva is being created to help with this constant movement and flow throughout the digestive system. We need this water, this flowing energy to help us digest smoothly. And the taste of food as it's being masticated through the teeth starts to release juices down in that right side of the upper gut, of the liver and the gallbladder starting to get ready to go, oh, things need to be released, as well as the stomach and the pancreas starting to go, oh, things need to be released in anticipation for this food. So we start to get this gut reaction happening where things are getting ready. There's an anticipation of what's to come. But as we're eating, it's actually a really grounding experience. We're using our teeth and we're chewing into this taste, this texture. And that may again also have associations of what feels really nourishing and kind to chew on, or what feels really hard and bitter and unpleasant to chew on. And so we start to associate experiences with how that chewing is happening in our mouths, and that can affect the amount of saliva emotionally that's starting to be released to help the swallowing of the food come down into the gut. As the liver is starting to release salts to come over into the gallbladder to help the bile release, we have this very excited energy. And this excited energy can sometimes turn into assertiveness that goes wrong. Maybe it's a bit of frustration, maybe it's a bit of agitation, maybe it's that desire for things to be a little easier, a little bit less unpleasant. And so it's an energy that can be of anger, of fire. And that's what is the best thing to think about, is it's starting to cultivate this energy that is exciting as it moves through. And this is where sometimes once it gets to that midsection, if it's too excited and the energy is too strong, the emotions can become more upsetting, right? We have an upward energy of anger, of frustration, of fire energy, and that's too much. It actually wants to be more of a winding, twisting, kind of releasing through to break down toxins, because that's what the liver does. The liver helps us break down toxicity, and when there's too much toxic load, it can become that kind of anger, short, bursty, kind of unstable energy that starts to move through. And so we don't necessarily have the same calm smoothness as the energy moves through, and it can get stuck here. And at this point, when the energy starts to get stuck here, it goes into the solar plexus area energetically, and it can confuse our sense of our own individual identity, our own good gifts and confidence and esteem. And so it can create this boiling effect where either we try and suppress and subdue that, or we become, as I said, a little bit explosive, a little bit agitated, reactive. And so this can be an area where we can start to see that we need to work a little bit with our emotional context of how we can break things down into small chunks and remove our toxic or unhelpful, unsupportive beliefs and thoughts and feelings around things. We're then going to allow those juices to land over into the stomach, and the pancreas is going to help release some more to support into the stomach to start to really break down that food. This is a very yang energy, it's a doing state, and we need to allow our body to actually be in a fairly relaxing state as we process and break things down. So once we are in this place of the stomach, we want to really take things apart. Let things be seen for their different components. And this energy may be a very, again, fiery energy. It can bring food back up, right? If it's not going to be good for us, it can really set free some extra gas. And so this is a place, again, where if we've got lots of this excess energy, or we've taken in something that is not so good for us, it can be hard to break things apart, right? It becomes excess wind or excess movement, and it can feel too heavy, and it can get too dense, and it can't be broken down because the energy has too much dampness in it. And so we need to be able to sense into what is happening in the stomach if it's finding it hard to break down, it's creating too much gas. And the emotions that can sometimes come up when we're moving through this stomach area is even more anxiety. We start to go into that over planning, overthinking how many different variables of things could happen in the world, all the things that could go wrong, and how can we preempt every single thing that could go wrong in this whole entire universe. And then how can I be the sole savior of all of that stuff? And that's really taxing. And it's really hard to break things down when we feel so much of that worry. So we need to separate out what is my responsibility to digest, and then what is not my responsibility that shouldn't be in my system, right? Might need to come up and out through wind or through another means. Once we've moved through the stomach, breaking things down with that extra lovely water we've been releasing as well from that saliva, and also through these juices coming through the gut, it moves down into the small intestine. We're actually still in that same energy of taking out and breaking things apart, what is good for us and what is not going to be good for us. The small intestine, it takes out all the nourishing goodness and lets it start to be something that's going to integrate and be a part of your body. It's going to be the building blocks of what you create your new body with, those new cells, your new hair, all of those lovely parts of which you're going to appreciate at the end of them being born into. So in this small intestine area, there's a lot of mixing, there's a lot of absorbing. And so this can feel a little bit like when something in life has happened and we have to stop and say, I'm not sure how I'm digesting that. I'm not sure what was good and I'm not sure what was bad. And at this point, I automatically take my hand here, and you can see as I'm thinking about that, there's this connecting to it. There's this allowing what is grounding, what is good for this body that wants to be digested and assimilated. And so this sometimes is where we have to reflect, where we have to stop and say, okay, those things that I once was anxious about, I don't need to be anxious about anymore, because I can celebrate and be grateful and know what the things are that bring goodness into my life. And I can focus on what brings goodness into my life, what nourishes me and is going to help me grow in a beautiful way. And so once we've assimilated and really brought in that nourishment into the body, and this is about nourishment at this point, we're really looking what's going to make you feel really easeful and joyful and open-hearted and want that sense of uplift in your life to be and connect with others. It starts to move down towards the large intestine, and this is an area where things can get really sticky. There's a valve here that if it's not working very well, things can get a bit backlogged and it can create that toxicity back into the small intestine. And so we want to ensure that we're still moving things through. We've still got that sense of water, of fluidity in our state. So recognizing that emotions and thoughts are just flowing through, moving through the body is going to help us to keep that energy moving. And sometimes it's nice just to brush the energy down, allowing it to move out and down into that large intestine. And as it moves down and out into that large intestine, we're still working with a sense of absorbing certain minerals, absorbing certain vitamins. So this is really deep core building blocks are still being absorbed from the large intestine. It's not just about elimination and waste removal, although that's often what we think of the large intestine being. And you often can lose some of that if there isn't appropriate hydration. So the large intestine is a huge area. It kind of goes around and up and back and all the way down until we exit at the bottom. And hydration is key. So most of us are well tuned nowadays to drink plenty of water and hydration, but that also wants to include electrolytes. If we overhydrate without appropriate electrolytes, there aren't going to be the minerals, there aren't going to be the vitamins in order for you to absorb into the body. And this is where things like having drinks like magnesium and potassium are really going to be supportive. But what about the emotional component, right? What is this area asking us to do to be hydrated and to absorb these tiny minutiae? Well, this is that process of letting go. It's really that deeper part of saying, okay, I've been nourished, I knew what I needed to take in, and now what I really don't need from that experience, now what I really don't need from that feeling is going to be the following, and that's going to be what starts to move through with that hydration. So in hydrating the body in order to let go, movement can be really supportive, that's very gentle and flowing in the core. And we'll do a video specifically looking at movements to support your digestion. But to finish going through this large intestine area, we want to be thinking about how it is that we can release and let go of what it is that is really not serving us, what lessons we no longer need to hold on to, what wisdom can we draw out. That's our minerals and our vitamin. This is a wise period in our body. We're drawing out that deep wisdom from experiences. Where's that real gift, that nugget of this emotional moment that I can draw out into my body, and all the rest of it, all the rest of the story, all of the rest of the upset, and even all the rest of the oh so exciting things that I don't want to let go of. All of them can be released. And as we come down to that final phase, there may have been water that also needed to move into the bladder. And that water is a key part of this digestive process. We've needed water to move through all of the digestion. But we also need to release the excess water, because that also takes in some of the toxins that may have been moving through the body. And so that bladder is going to also help us release some of those toxins, as well as anything else that moves out through the bowels. So a simple way of summarizing this process is that as we step into our digestive process, we want to release our expectations of what we thought in the past may come again in this new meal. We want to start to excite the sense of anticipation of what something new might bring, what new learning might there be, and the courage to step into the unknown of this new experience as we start to bring the energy down and into the body. As we move over, bringing in this chemical experience, things all start to fire up and they get all excited. So our emotions can become a little bit fiery. Maybe there's a little bit of excitement, of anger, of frustration, of that's not what I wanted it like this, that's how I would like it. And we have to find our assertiveness, our clear what is good for us, the direction that we want to go in. And that's what we start to break out and move forwards into, so we can bring in what's nourishing from this experience. From our assertiveness, we nourish ourselves and we really start to bring in the goodness of the experience, so we can be fully present and connected with every part of our experience and the emotional flow. And then we start to really allow that experience to drop away, to move into this place of accepting what has happened, releasing that it is now going to pass, and to have grief, to let go, to surrender, but also really importantly, to have faith that another meal is going to come again, to have faith that you will receive that nourishment, and to have faith that your life is here to support you and that good things can happen, even if in the past there may have been evidence that it was otherwise. The next time you can have a completely different, delicious experience, and it can nourish and uplift you, and then you'll move on to the next that maybe will be even better. One of my favorite practices to share with digestion and connecting with that digestive flow is as straightforward as placing a hand on the abdomen. It can be either hand, and to follow that digestive flow. So from the right ribs over to the left, down through the middle of the belly and over to the right hip, and then coming back up and around and back down and to the base of the pubic bone. If that feels really complicated, you can just draw circles from the right to the left on the belly. But if you'd like to try it one more time with that specific patterning of the digestive system, we go from the right low ribs over to the left low ribs. We come down to the belly button, draw a little circle around the belly button, and then let the hands drop down to the right hip. Circle down the right side, across the upper abdomen, down the left side, and down and out through the pubic bone. If you're enjoying this gut health series, then make sure you watch on for the next video, where you are going to be learning a gargle along and how gargling can impact your gut health through what you're doing with your mouth and your throat. Make sure you hit subscribe so that you get the alert when the videos are released in this series, and share on with anyone else you think might be interested. Thank you for joining. Have a wonderful day.